if you have any doubts in your mind and somebody tells you something to do that's not ringing true, please trust yourself. Hey, I'm Dr. Ruth Roberts, the original holistic pet health coach, and I am super delighted to have with me here today Melissa Sherman, one of our certified holistic pet health coaches that has, and she knows dogs, but more importantly, she knows cats. And I think that's what so many cat parents are struggling with is help. I need help. I need direction. Melissa, welcome. I am so happy you are here and you're able to share your expertise. I know that you are you've been working with many of your own kitties and you've been able to help others as well. But they're definitely a challenge when it comes to getting them to believe in something else to eat other than, say, for instance, the delicious Friskies buffet they've been experiencing.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're definitely more challenging. And I like to compare them to if you've gone from a diet where it's high process, high carb, high sugar, and then you transition to whole foods, what that transition feels like to you as a person. Cats are more like that. Dogs kind of don't care. They're a little easier to transition. Some dogs are picky, but generally you can put something in front of them and they'll take to it. Or they'll get hungry enough that they do. Cats will protest and they will let you know that they want their carbs, and it can be really challenging.
Amen. I think they are the victims of the idea of like Lay's potato chips. The reason you can't eat just one is that there are at least 13 flavoring agents.
Yeah.
And I think in most commercial cat foods, they're doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of gross.
Yeah. Gross.
Yeah, and it's like when you read what they actually are, it's really gross.
Yeah.
So right on. So what are some of the best techniques you've used to change over kitties into whole foods?
So
where do you even start?
Keeping in mind that they're very, I'm going to use this word loosely, but they're a little suspicious of what we're putting in front of them. If it's not something they're familiar with, they like their routines. They like the comfort and security of the same thing. It's like a lot of people I know, myself included. I like that comfort of knowing what to expect. So when you put a new texture in front of them, they're like, what is this? So if you know your cat likes fishy foods or something like that, I've used just like sardines and water that you get at the grocery store. You just want to make sure that there's no added sodium or herbs, anything like that, just water. You can put a sardine on top. You can sprinkle some of that water on top. The nutritional yeast. So I have some right here. So not baker's yeast, but nutritional yeast or brewer's yeast. It attracts them. It has like a cheesy flavor. They go to it like it's a carb. So just putting little things on there. You might have to test out 3, 4, 5 things, see what they like, start slow, be patient, and be mindful of your energy too. What are you bringing when you go see your cat? Are you going with, oh my God, they're not going to eat any of this, they're going to hate it, and you're bringing that to them? They're very sensitive. So cats are very sensitive to energy in general, but they absorb what we put out. So if they think you don't like the food, they're not going to like the food either. They're going to be afraid to try it because whatever you are giving them and coming over with, they're like, oh, what is she doing? I'm not eating
What
that.
is that vibe?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's mad. There's got to
Mom
be
is
something with that food.
wigged about that. Yeah, that's got to be evil. I'm not touching it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have to go in. I tell my clients, ground yourself, sit there 30 seconds, 2 minutes, whatever you need. Visualize that. What are you going to go and do? You want to see your cat eating this food, living this wonderful life with all this moisture rich food in their diet. So just keep that in mind. And then when you go approach your cat, you're like, hey, this food's great. And it's a different energy, and they're more receptive to that kindness and that openness with you. Like, hey, this is fun. I want to try those sardines. What is that? And it just piques their curiosity. And cat owners know that cats are very curious. So you just got to get on the same wavelength as them and look from a cat's perspective, how can we make it fun for them?
That is so true. The funniest story ever about nutritional yeast when I was a lot younger. I came home one day and I was using it for various and sundry things, and my cat's head was buried in the bed. He's a black kitty, Mr. Irene Smith. He pulls his head out and he
Oh
has like
gosh,
yellow everywhere, and he's what?
that's
That's
great. But
hilarious.
that's perfect. That's how much most cats love it. They love it.
Amen.
So
Amen.
yeah,
It's one of my favorite popcorn toppers when I can eat
me
popcorn.
too.
So
Yeah.
yeah, right on. So cool. That's amazing. But you just said something super, super important, and that is that if you come into a situation where you're trying to make a change for your dog, for your cat, for yourself, if you come into this with, this is going to be so hard, it will be. So,
Yeah.
how do you help explain that to people that aren't used to dealing with that intuitive aspect of how to help support your pets?
So I do offer some of my clients, I've recorded like 30-minute meditations for them. So they have a guide to go and see how can I be a little more neutral. I've had requests to actually put it on YouTube. So I think I'm going to do some of that too, maybe make some longer videos. But just to get into that mindset is it goes back to our health too and being mindful and doing things intentionally. So just as a coach, I want to support them and help them like how it's not just about pet care, it's about our care too and how we can approach the whole thing, our health, our pet's health, everything in the best way that we can wherever we're at, because it might not be feasible to be 100% whole foods all the time, but anything is better. And that's what I tell my clients too. If you can get 50% kibble, 50% canned even, you're already 50% better than you were before. And if you need to take a break, I work with animals. I have 4 cats, but I had one holdout that she took about 6 months. And it's hard. It's frustrating. It's hard not to go into that and be like, ah, she's not going to eat it again. And what am I doing wrong? And start blaming her and blaming myself. But it's the second you can change the narrative and just flip that lens and say, you know what, we're going to do this and it's for the best for both of us. And it helps. And they see the difference too when they go in positively versus cursing.
Screaming and kicking our heels. Yeah. But
Exactly.
and that's the thing. I think that's the mindset. And for most of us in the US is like, no, we're going for the whole enchilada right
Yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
that's just not
All or nothing.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we need to be so much gentler. And these
Yeah.
guys are like, hey, you see this? Really, you don't have to go straight into deadlifting 125 pounds for 20 reps. Take it
Exactly.
easy. Let's just,
Exactly. And
little
cats just need us to go slower. They need us to be patient and then they trust. So it's just being delicate, treating them like little kids. Really, you just approach it very delicately and it goes so far. And the perfectionism is just let that go. You got to let it go because with cats, it may not be perfect. There may be things in there that aren't perfect, but it's equivalent to someone, hey, I went and had fast food last night.
eh,
It's not perfect, but you might pay the price for it. So it's just that balance of where is the cat at? It's not just about where I'm at or the pet guardian. Where is the cat at? What can they do?
right on. Yeah, if you've got a pet that's really sick and really struggling with that, making an abrupt change that's not the time for it.
Right.
Maybe you do what you were suggesting, do little toppers, little things that'll help pull them in the right direction. As I like to say, if you think about the food bowl, and this isn't a great one for cats, obviously,
Yeah.
if the food bowl is full, maybe your challenge is right here. So they
Yeah.
can experience it, but not be
Exactly.
forced to deal with it. So,
Exactly. Or even putting a dab of the wet food on their paw so they lick it and do that for a few days because they'll start to learn that smell isn't bad. They'll
right on.
remember, hey, that kind of tasted good. So you can put a little more on their bowl and they might experiment with it.
Right on. The other thing that's interesting is that you are using your intuition as part of the way that you help support pets. So, how did you figure out, A, that you had this skill, this ability, and how did you end up developing it? I think that's just amazing stuff.
Yes, I like many people talk to my animals my entire life. I felt like I had an intuition where I could tell something was wrong, but I just in my mind, I was like, I'm just making all of this up. I did go to a class and I studied at a school to develop this, and it's just been incredible. It's telepathy. So we're using telepathy to communicate with the animals, and that comes to me as pictures, words, or feelings. And then I'm just translating that to the pet guardian. So what that can help with, how I found your school was I had so many clients that their pets had allergies, or I could tell that just something was going on. And through my nutrition certification, it just wasn't enough. So I was able to just learn enough through your program, but it all tied it together. But what brought me here was the animal communication. I wanted to help my clients and I couldn't. I could tell they had allergies. Like I could sense an allergy versus maybe they ate a toad. Like I could
Yeah,
tell the
right.
differences, but it's just that's what brought me here. So I can help in the transition because I can
Cool.
see maybe the cat doesn't like fish, or maybe you're giving her turkey and when she eats the turkey, she's having some kind of reaction in her throat, so it makes her feel bad. Just observing a cat, you might not see that because cats are the masters of hiding any kind of discomfort, symptoms, anything. Tapping into that and really feeling what the animal's feeling, or are they anxious? Just settling that and just putting in the cat's voice and saying, hey, this is what the cat feels when you're coming at her. And I do. I have a client that indicated to me that mom's so mad every time she comes to me with this food and it's making me nervous. So you know what? That information was able to teach the pet owner, hey, I really need to like ground myself and not be crazy when I go to my cat. And within a week, her cat was trying the food and eating it, and she's fully transitioned to a whole food diet now. So I love stuff like that.
That is amazing. That is so amazing.
Yeah,
And
it really is.
I have not been consistent with any training, but it's like when I'm in the right space, I will get downloads. But kudos to you to be able to get that information and put it into a useful form to help the pets because
Yeah,
it is so useful. They're
thank
willing to
you.
tell us exactly, but we have to
Yeah.
be able to interpret what they're sending.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. And I have another client it was two cats she was transitioning, and one of the cats, it turned out, was sneak attacking the other cat for the new food. So he was, hey, I really like this food so much, it's all mine. But she couldn't, the pet guardian was like, why isn't she eating this? But that's why. So she set up a camera and actually caught the cat chasing off her other cat. So she's like, okay. But it's little bits like that that you may not see, that animal communication can help like bridge that gap of what's going on.
Right on. And do you feel like most pet parents are aware that their pets are they're trying to say, hey, my brother's beating me up here. Can you please help me with this? Do you feel like they get the idea that's out there, but they just can't quite get it into a
I
useful
think
form?
so, because it's really the muscle is you have to learn to trust yourself, and so it comes with practice to where is that my voice or is that their voice? It's distinguishing the difference, but really I try to tell my pet guardian clients all the time, your pet better than anybody else. They're telling you all day long what it is. Because sometimes I'll say something and they'll say, I always felt that way. So they knew, but I was able to validate that information for them. So it's helpful too in helping the pet parent know that they really are connected and they need to just trust their own intuition as well.
That is such an interesting point, right? Because the way that the modern medicine system is set up, conventional medicine, allopathic, whatever you want to call it, is to not trust yourself. It's to only trust the doctor.
Yeah.
And we can see where that's taken us when the patient or the guardian for the patient is taken out of the process. It is not good. So
Right.
that's a really valid point, and that's what I've been struggling with for really for 20 years is to help people know that no, you really do know your pet the best.
Yeah.
That's so critical, y'all. If you have any doubts in your mind and somebody tells you something to do that's not ringing true, please trust yourself. And are you doing muscle testing, or are you able to, for different foods or different supplements, or are
I
you able
will
to
do
just
that. I
ask the
will do
cat?
that
Yeah,
too. Yeah, I do. I do that with my own animals. I do muscle testing. I will, if somebody asks me to do it, I will do that because I
cool.
think that's so valid too, to have 3 or 4 supplements in front of you or 3 or 4 foods and be able to see what's going to do better and start with that. So it is really effective. I know that sounds so woo to some people, but when they see how valid it is, it's like, what? So
Right
it's just
on.
crazy how many different things are out there that are available to us.
Sweet. And then you can offer what you think will be the best option is, and then the
Exactly.
cat or the dog is going to tell you, yeah, this is super, or
Exactly.
maybe something else. So that's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
But I think that's muscle testing is something that when someone is really skilled is just astonishing. But I think that all of us can do it at a basic level to make a decision.
I agree. Yeah, I absolutely
And,
agree.
and so if you're feeling like you have some intuition, that's where there's plenty of videos about the sway test. I think that's the simplest way to start for most people. Have you found an easier
Yeah,
technique?
I do like to use a pendulum,
Ah,
just
cool.
like something, it could be a crystal or whatever, just dangling. I have one right here, but just that's what I usually use. And you just have to learn what means yes and what means no. And
Right.
for me, a circle, a clockwise circle is a yes, and up and down is a no. And that's how it comes to me. And it's over the years, it's just developed and improved, and it's just incredible. I started with myself. I started with different supplements for myself, and I was my own guinea pig because I prefer to just test on myself than my animals. But once I
Right
felt like
on.
I had that skill down, I tried it with some of my cats, some of my dogs, and it's really helped because there's thousands of supplements out there for humans and animals. It's really
Amen.
hard to navigate what's going to be the best. So if you have something like that you can practice, it helps whittle it down at least.
Right on. And that's the critical thing. There's so much out there. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, some of it's exceptionally good, and some of it's exceptionally bad. So it really does help. And that's critical too, because then you can start asking questions about, okay, this one's good and this one's good. Are they good together? Is the synergy good? Or
Exactly.
is it
Yeah.
better one or the other? Yeah, what's going to
Right.
make the most impact with the least input? So important. And this is so much fun, Melissa. This is just a
Oh,
ball.
good.
No, because
I'm
this is,
happy for hours and hours.
and you really should. That would be so awesome if you do some YouTube videos on basics of getting started with muscle testing, or
Yeah,
just
that would be
using
really
your
great.
intuition to make some decision, because that's so useful. For many people, it seems incomprehensible, and you've just broken it down, boom, boom, in a way that's very easy for most of us to understand. So that's so needed in this world. Anything we can do to amplify people using their intuition about what's good and what's not good is amazing. So, so thank you for that.
You're
Now,
welcome.
it's really interesting too. So, segueing back to food, we get into these ideas that it must all be raw, it must all be cooked, it must all be canned or whatever. So, what do you find that there's a consistent thing that works better for your pet, the pets you're supporting, your own pets? Or do you think you just really have to talk to that individual pet and say, what's going to feel good? How does that work?
So that definitely helps cut down a lot of the time if I can have a communication with them for sure, because it gives a better starting place, especially if it's something behavioral that maybe we're not even thinking about. It could be something, there could be some other thing going on in their system that is causing them discomfort. And the last thing they want is the stress of a new diet. So just getting in there, that helps. But as far as transitioning, I went from kibble to canned, and I felt like that was an easier transition. I did try raw My cats would not do it. It might be the best thing for cats. I know a lot of people say that it is. It is not for every cat. And it's okay if your cat doesn't eat raw. You can still get great nutrients. I cook for my cats. If I run out of the food, I have cans in my pantry. You can get very high quality, limited ingredient. There's rabbit, venison. There's great stuff out there. I'm happy to suggest anything if anybody has questions, because it's, again, there's how many different brands and then how many different varieties, and even one brand might have good rabbit, but like their venison recipe might not be the greatest ingredients. So it's really important to know how to read the labels, and also understand it is processed. It's the same as us. If we have a whole foods diet, but then we have mac and cheese and I don't know, a lean cuisine, it's processed, but you're still eating and it's okay. And you're not going to die and everything's not going to hell. So it's right. It works.
Right.
It's okay. And it's, again, getting out of that perfectionist mindset and just saying, maybe with my cat, it can't be perfect. With my dog, maybe it can.
Maybe. But that is such a valid point. And I had a similar experience to you. So I went from dry to canned to cooked and then tried raw. This was the most, I still have this image in my mind. So they all ate it and I walked back in the room 5 minutes later and all 5 at that moment went, bah! And projectile vomited it up. And it's like, ooh, okay, no, we're not doing that again.
Yeah.
But
so that was my experience with raw too.
Yeah, it was like, okay. But I think what happens is, I think if you start a kitten on raw or a very young cat, then they're accustomed to the digestion. But again, because of the carb addiction, it is so hard to take a cat that's been on kibble over to raw. And again, patience. I think that is the species that raw absolutely is the correct choice. But there's so many of them that just are like, not happening.
Yeah, especially if they're set, they're 5, 6, 10. It's great if your cat's 10 years old and you're ready to transition off kibble, again, don't feel bad about it. Don't feel bad. I fed kibble. We all fed kibble. We all did the best that we knew how to do and what we were being told was the best. So even if you're ready to do it with an older cat, don't be shy about it. Ask for help.
Amen.
That's what we're here for. And we can help you. And if your cat is only going to do 50-50, again, it's that much better. It's that much better.
You're way ahead of the game. Exactly.
Absolutely.
I think that is so important. And the way I look at nutrition too is that if you're doing what you ought to be doing for yourself, for that dog, for that cat, 90% of the time, and the other 10% is Cheetos, okay, you're doing great.
Yes.
Enjoy. This stuff is really delicious. And so sometimes we just get to have a little junk food. And I keep saying Cheetos because that's Mary Jo's secret weakness is cheesy poofs. So anyway, so there you go. So that is so awesome. The big takeaways are: be patient with cats, don't strive for perfection, and let them tell you, let them direct you to what's going to work. And I've seen people that will do little tiny 1/2 teaspoon buffets for the kitties and let them sniff around and see what works, put it on their feet, and just test it in a myriad of ways and find out what's what. So and there's so many options.
So many. I mean, I think I only listed like 3 or 4. There's so many different things. Like even because you want to support their gut health too, but like the fermented fish stock, oh my gosh, it's so gross, but the cats love it. And it's great. It has great probiotics in it. That's something that you can order online. Raw goat's milk, if you can get it locally, do that. If you can get it if your only source is online, do that too. But cats love that. Sprinkling that on their food, it's double benefit because it's going to tempt them to try it because they're like, what's this stinky fish? But it's also good for their gut health. So it's going to support that whole transition.
Right on. So a beautiful functional food.
Yes, exactly.
So when you've had success to transition cats onto whole foods, then what are you seeing after that? What happens? What happens next?
Everything is better. Their coat, their eyes, they're bouncing around because I live on a farm, so I had my barn cats and I had my indoor cats. My barn cats, despite what they're up against, they're always so vibrant and they're awake and they're running around and they're up and down. And the indoor cats were always sleeping. So I questioned, what is going on? They're getting live food, my barn cats. They're eating meat. Despite if I was putting the kibble down or wet food, they're getting what they need from nature. So just looking at that was like eye-opening. But the comparison to my indoor cats that want nothing to do with the outside, they're bouncing around, they're climbing up the walls. And I had to get more enrichment stuff for my house because they're running everywhere. They're just like the barn cats now. So they just come alive. And I had a cat that had a lot of UTI issues. She had crystals. She just had a lot of issues. She was also the cat that was more difficult to transition. She does not have those issues anymore. Her pH is balanced, no crystals. She's happy. She uses the litter box. Everything just came together.
Beautiful.
Yes. And that's the magic that we want to see is what
Right?
goes in and then what are you getting out is good stuff.
Right on. And I think what you said is just so critical. So just by making the food change alone, you saw vibrancy, health, excitement, energy come back into your indoor kitties. And how many supplements did you have to add to do that?
None.
That's exactly
I
it.
did a big zero. I was
Yep.
adding like natural probiotics, but it was all food. It was all food based. So it's incredible. I do add vitamins, but other than that, I didn't do anything to support her urinary tract, or I just wanted to see, is the moisture enough? And it was. And I've seen that in clients too, that just getting the nutrients and the moisture they need is enough to clear it all up. And it's astounding.
That is so sweet. So, when we started talking, you mentioned that part of the reason you ended up doing the course is because you had clients with allergies and you didn't have enough information, or whose pets had allergies, I should
Yeah,
say, but you
yeah.
didn't have enough information to deal with it. So, since you've been able to use the information in the course, what have you seen for those folks with pets with allergies? Has that shifted?
Yeah. Just getting them intolerance testing, starting with getting the proteins out that were causing inflammation because chicken, beef are pretty high up there. And that's pretty much what we're buying for our cats when we're buying processed food. That's the most available. So just being able to eliminate those things from the diet, be able to help with that. The TCBM portion of your program is so incredible. I want to take such a deep dive graduate degree in it or something. It opened up my world to like how our systems interact with each other. And that piece has just been eye-opening, and I really want to learn as much as I can about that. But it's the whole
Cool.
thing together is like, oh, wow. There's
Well,
the
and
pieces.
there's the pieces. And the cool
Yeah.
news on that is I talked with Dr. Chris Besant from Herbsmith, and so we're going to cook up a more advanced course in
Oh
Chinese
my
medicine.
gosh, that is so
And
exciting.
and instead of the learning, she is so good at just going for the here's the things you got to understand and know to be able to use this information effectively. So I love
That's
her
really
approach in
exciting.
teaching. Yeah, it is. We're like, yeah, so it'll be like the download, the direct dump download of both of our brains in TCVM to get veterinarians, and the goal is to again get race CE credits for vets, vet techs, but also to
Very
really
cool.
elevate the understanding for all of,
Come on. Yes, I know. She's like up, down, up, down.
all of the coaches in the program too that really want to pursue all of that. I think she wants to
Right.
talk to you. Um,
She's so
but
cute.
She says, yes, I have something.
to tell you, and I think she does actually. I'm not smart enough to get them, and that's actually, since I said that, what I want to put. Do you find with your own pets that it can be difficult to receive the information? Yeah,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
your objectivity is out the window.
Yeah, that's what it is just your ability to keep the emotions out of it, especially if it's high stress. If it's day to day, I get what they're saying. But if
Right.
something happens or someone's sick or someone's hurt, I spiral just like everybody else does. And then I can't get to that quiet place where I can hear what they're saying. Luckily, I have colleagues and friends that I can call on to help me too. So it's important for animal communicators to know that too. We support people when maybe something really scary is happening. So animal communicators they can be that grounding rod for you to help you get through something, not only because they're going to come in neutral, meditate, and be able to communicate with the animal, but they're also going to be able to do that for you as well.
Right. And I think it's really important for anyone that is working in the field of health is to know that, yeah, you can guide your dog, your cat, your child, yourself through the basics. But if you're really hitting a brick wall, you need those outside eyes to help see it in a different fashion and to see it outside of the emotional realm. Because when stuff happens, I go there too. She is having some issues, and I really do want to talk with you about her, about Miss Hayo, because it's like, Mary Jo and I are like, and it's our baby. So we need to get help. Yeah. But so let's answer a couple of questions. So Laura's got one about grapeseed oil and linoleic acid. And Laura, good for you for doing the research and finding out that there's not any organic cold press stuff locally that would supply the linoleic acid. And because most of the stuff conventionally is sadly extracted with hexane, which is a really yucky petrochemical. Gamma-linoleic acid is an essential acid that we need to make sure that both the dogs are getting. Have you come up against this, Melissa? Have you got suggestions?
I have not. This is really interesting. I'm interested to see what you have to share about it.
So I think you start looking at other sources of gamma-linoleic acid. So evening primrose oil, and you can get the capsules, you can get our fairly concentrated, so something like 1,300 milligrams per capsule. And so maybe what you're going to do is back calculate what you would need. And I would say for a 25-pound dog, because that's always the weight benchmark, you would need something like maybe 3 or 4 drops, which will be pretty close to 1/8 of a capsule out of one of those gel caps. Flaxseed oil is a source of gamma-linoleic acid. It's not a good source of omega-3 fatty acids, which is why most pet food manufacturers put it in to say they have omega-3 content, because it's not absorbable. Other choices could be things like borage oil, black currant seed oil. So you can find some, and in this case, supplement products to make sure that you're getting a clean source of gamma-linoleics. And then there's always an online source. So for instance, Frontier Herbs, I think, has a retail storefront. Thrivecart, if you're not familiar with that, this is a business that started selling Whole Foods natural products in a membership format. That's a great resource if you're in the US. Yeah, because you can order almost anything that you can't get locally and get it shipped in. And while I try to avoid that, sometimes it's just absolutely necessary. So that would be an option. And I think that's the questions here. What I'm going to do now is jump over to our circle group. And I think this is it. Yep. And we'll see what we can do to help here. And I think we're in the right one. Let's see. So this is where all of our communities live, both for the Crock Pet Diet, the Holistic Pet Health Coach Certification Program, and the International Holistic Pet Health Coach Association. So this platform has been so super because while Facebook is easy to use, this has been great to have a more private conversation where we can really get things going. So Jody, who is one of our students, is posting in here about getting general products to help support immune function. And she's got a Chico Cat Cafe. So we've got more and more cat folks coming in, which is wonderful. She's also a registered vet tech, which is like, and so now her job is a nonprofit virtual assistant. So sadly, the veterinary profession has not been kind to our technicians, which is crazy. So she's been using Viral Ice and Primo Probiotic. And so she's finding that she's mixing it all up. It filters down to the bottom of their bowls. And so it sounds like maybe she's still trying to deal with the transition from kibble to something else.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if it's at the bottom of the bowl, it ain't doing much. So
Right.
any ideas on what she could use?
So I think I would go back to the raw goat's milk or even that fermented fish stock and use that rather than the powder, or mix the powder in with that.
Right
Dissolve
on.
it a little bit, disguise that probiotic taste, whatever. But if they won't take the probiotic, don't stress over it. Just go to a food-based probiotic. That would be my advice, is just do it with something like those two things.
Right on. And I'm not sure why you're boosting or wanting to boost immunity, or actually a better way to put it would be to keep the immune system in homeostasis. But another thing you could consider is C60, because it's
Oh, I like
an
that.
oil-based thing. For the average cat, it's maybe 4 or 5 drops per day. That's usually a fairly easy sell. It will absorb into the kibble, or again, you can mix it in with the fish stock or something else
Right.
that's super delicious. And then you could consider any of the standard process products are for cats. So immune support by standard process would be an option, because it is a glandular based, it's in a tableted form. And so that's been a really easy fix for many people. The cats tend to like it pretty well. So the next person is Kendra, who's asking about the crock-pot diet for kidney disease. And it is for 4 cups of cooked rice, uncooked rice. And it is a lot of rice. And here's the difficulty. When you go to a kidney diet, you're going to a low protein diet. And if in order to get a certain number of calories into a cup of food, you got to put something else in if you're taking the protein out. And so this is where carbohydrates come up. There is a version of the kidney diet that is more keto based that I developed for somebody who had a dog with advanced kidney disease and then developed cancer. So you've got 3 macronutrients: protein, fat, carbohydrate. And so if you've got them in roughly equal portions and you drop one, you've got to increase one or both of the other 2. That's why most of the kidney diets look so horrifying when we look at the ingredients, because they are largely carb, and something like 80%. The way I formulated the diet is so it's higher in protein than slightly by the RX diets, but I had to bring up the carbs to keep these guys out of trouble. And I think Angela has gotten some help from one of our other coaches about this kitty Kismet.
It was
whose name
me.
I love. Is it you? See, you got
It's
this one
me.
covered. Great. How's that going?
Good. I actually spoke to her yesterday. She's waiting to get the Glacier Peaks results back. And once that gets started, we're going to move forward with just make a diet based on that. Kismet sounds like a very open, easy cat. She said that she's able to give him supplements, and
Wow.
he takes things. She says that she trained him. So I think that's fantastic. That helps so much. But it's just, she has tried the crock-pot diet. So the fact that he's open to that, we just need to tweak the
Amazing.
ingredients. We need to just get to the bottom of what's going on and then just start from there. And that's it. I mean, I say that's it,
awesome.
but it's really, you think these things are such big problems, but then it all comes down to what are we putting in? What's the gut health? How can we improve those things? And then get them to a place where now they have all the nutrients and their gut is healthy again. And now what does it look like? Then we can start doing more things, but just establishing the healthy gut and fresh foods with moisture rich nutrients. It just like, I can't even, it just blows my mind every time how much just that improves a pet's health.
That's crazy. So for those that don't know what eosinophilic granuloma complex, what is that?
It's an
the
autoimmune
nightmare.
disease. It can be challenging because it could be an environmental source. Things will trigger it. Allergies can trigger it. Just things can trigger these flare-ups. But this cat in particular has a sore on his lip. They can get sores on their extremities too. He doesn't have that, thankfully, but it's uncomfortable. And it's just, what is it? What's causing that? What's the root of that autoimmune disease?
Exactly. And almost every autoimmune starts in the
Gut.
yeah. And that's
Yeah,
exactly
the
it.
leaky gut, right? It's
Right. And y'all, this, I know I sound like I'm a broken record, but this is really where you have to start to fix these
yeah.
chronic problems. So it's for good reason. And the other thing too, I know the controversies about, is Purina the evil mega giant we all think it is? And are there other foods that are having issues and nobody's talking about it?
Mhm.
We can go in there and stay in there with all that negativity, or you can take responsibility for knowing exactly what's in your dog, your cat, your child's, your own food by making it at home.
Yeah.
And at the same time, dramatically reduce your carbon footprint, because you're not buying something that's wrapped in plastic, put on freezer blocks in a styrofoam cooler, shipped to you every month. We got to start changing the way we're doing things, y'all. And our pets are they do have a big carbon footprint. Somebody said at one point the average dog has the carbon footprint of 2 mid-size SUVs. It turns out it's only 1, but still, that's a lot.
Wow, that is a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, because we've got to do our best to help. Not only will we improve their health, but we'll improve the health of the planet by making as much food as possible at home. And I get it. There's days where it's like, I didn't get this next batch of food made. What am I going to feed my dog? Oh, thank God there's the can of whatever it is in the cupboard, or my cat. So that's my soapbox, but I'm sticking to it. We're all seeing the changes here. I don't think there's,
Yeah.
whether you want to call it climate change or pollution or whatever, we're seeing changes, and we've got to
Yeah.
start making changes ourselves. Cool. On that dour note, Melissa, this has been a ball. I am dropping your website in there if you want to get in touch
Thank
with
you.
Melissa. She knows kitties, obviously. She also knows doggies. So she's got you covered. If you need a communicator to help you understand what's going on with your pet, this is a great place to start. And sometimes when pets are in the middle of really craziness with their health, a communicator is a fabulous place to start, because the pet can tell you, oh my God, please do not give me that thing again. It really
Yes.
sucks and it hurts me.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
right on. So, thank you again for doing
Thank
this. It's been
you.
a very fun conversation.
It
And you
has
all, we
been.
will.
Thank you.
Good. See, and it's just peachy keen easy.
It is.
So,
It's
we will.
awesome. This was a lot of fun.
Fantastic. So we'll see everybody next week. We'll have another amazing holistic pet health coach on to tell you about their experiences, what their sort of zone of genius is, and answer more of your questions. So until then, give your puppies and kitties a big hug and a kiss for us.